once you have an inflationary boom, you have to have a recession. Recession is a necessary product of the boom. Therefore, the best thing to do is get it over with fast, right? And then you have a recovery situation. In other words, let the market do its recession adjustment work quickly so that you get back to full employment very rapidly. Now, before 1929, I'm not saying we had monetary freedom before 29, but before 1929, the government did not interfere in recessions. It somehow felt that its business was allowed the free market to work. And so recessions were over with very quickly. For example, the 2021 recession, which Benjamin Anderson called the last free market recession, last pre-New Deal recession. It had been brought about by the government through wartime inflation and so forth. But once the recession hit, the government had hands off, and the recession, which was very deep, it was real depression, it was big unemployment, prices fell sharply, it was a lot of bankruptcies. It was over in 9 months, essentially over. By the time the status of that period, who were getting stronger, not as strong as they were later, by the time the status had convinced President Harding, by the way, Harding is one of my favorite, well, my only quasi-favorite president of the 20th century. He's kind of a lovable character. His instincts were pretty good. He just wanted to sit in the White House and play poker. And by the time the statists who were headed by Hoover, by the way, it's another story I can't get into now since I'm already getting over time. The statists headed by Hoover, just about, who was very powerful in the Harding administration, and just about convinced Harding to start intervening massively. We've got to check this depression. We've got a big public works increase and big inflation of credit. By the time he was able to convince Harding, the recession was over. The free market had worked so fast that the government couldn't intervene. At that point, Hoover pledged to himself and to the public that if he became president, he would not wait. He would intervene right away. Okay? And sure enough, the fall of 1929, he was unfortunately president, and we had a big stock market crash. He intervened massively and immediately, and thereby prolonged the depression for his 4 years in office. And Roosevelt essentially intensified his policies and prolonged it until so he got us into war in 1940-41. So the Austrian position then is, if you're in a boom period, stop inflating fast as soon as possible, right away, push the button, stop expanding money, and then sit the recession out. Don't intervene in it, so it will be over with fast. It's like the difference between a surgical thing where you cut off a tumor or something like that, or else a chronic depression where you're sick constantly and getting sicker. It's an acute thing versus a chronic depression. And so, by trying to fine-tune the system to end inflation without depression, Friedmanite monetarism got us into a big depression. And then by that time, then of course the deficits increased. Monetarism was discredited probably more than it should have been. Lafferism was discredited more than it should have been because they never tried Lafferism. They never had the tax cut to test it. But at any rate, the way the media operates and politics operates, the result of all this infighting is that the conservative Keynesians are now taking over. They're now in the saddle, and they're increasing deficits and increasing taxes to meet the deficits and so forth and so on. And we're back to the good old days of the Keynesian epoch, at least politically. We will not get out of it until, well, I don't know, until we take over, I suppose. Thank you.